Naomi Blake was passing the study when she heard voices, low, urgent, and unexpected. She stopped in her tracks. It was nearly midnight, and Ethan was never up this late. Her heart tightened. Silently, she stepped closer, her bare feet careful against the floorboards. Through the slightly open door, she could hear her mother-in-law, Vivian, on the phone. Her tone was icy, controlled, calculated. "She doesn't deserve it, Ethan. You file, you take control, and I'll make sure she's out of your life for good." Naomi felt her chest tighten. Gone for good. Control of what? Her heart knew the answer even before her mind caught up. They were talking about her company, about the billion-dollar empire she had built from nothing. She pressed a hand to her mouth, willing herself not to gasp. Slowly, she pulled her phone out of her pocket and hit record. Her hand shook so badly, she almost dropped it. Ethan's voice came next, quieter but clear. "Mum, are you sure this will work? She's not stupid. She's emotional," Vivian snapped. "And you're her husband. She trusts you. You file for divorce, claim she's unstable, and we take control. I'll handle the rest." Naomi's stomach turned to ice. Her own husband, the man she had trusted with her heart. She backed away from the door, every muscle in her body trembling. Her phone stopped recording after 20 seconds, but that was enough. Enough to prove she wasn't imagining things. Enough to know her life had just changed in one single moment. Naomi walked into her office, closed the door, and stared at her laptop on the desk. It was open, still logged into her company account. Her entire fortune, back U24, a billion-dollar tech empire, built from her sweat, sleepless nights, and belief that love and loyalty were stronger than greed. Back U24 sat right there. For a moment, she just stood there, frozen, unable to breathe. The betrayal hurt so deep, it felt like someone had ripped her heart out. She thought of Ethan's smile when they first met, how safe he made her feel, how she believed he was the one person who truly loved her for who she was. And now he was planning to take everything. Naomi sat down slowly, her hands trembling as she touched the keyboard. She stared at the glowing screen, the company she had built flashing back at her in charts and numbers. Then her eyes hardened. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. Instead, she made one silent, life-altering decision. She closed the laptop with a click that echoed in the quiet room, stood up, and whispered to herself, "Not today. Not ever." Everything she thought she knew about her life had shattered in seconds. But one thing was clear. She wasn't going to wait for them to destroy her. She was going to move first. Naomi grew up with no parents. She was orphaned when she was only 10 years old and moved through different foster homes. Life was hard, but she always had a sharp mind and a big dream. She loved technology and spent hours teaching herself how to code on old second-hand computers. By the time she was 22, she had built her first tech product and turned it into a startup. Her company grew fast because Naomi worked harder than anyone else. She barely slept, skipped parties, and poured her entire heart into building something that mattered. Over time, her startup became a billion-dollar tech empire, known for innovative software that changed how businesses communicated worldwide. When she met Ethan Blake, she thought life was finally giving her happiness. Ethan was charming, kind, and made her laugh in a way she hadn't laughed since she was a child. He loved that she was ambitious and told her often, "I'm proud of you, Naomi. You're incredible." She believed him. She married him out of love and loyalty, thinking he would be her partner in every way. For the first few years, Ethan was supportive and sweet, but things changed when he joined his mother's family business. Vivian Blake, Ethan's mother, came from old money. She was elegant, powerful, and used to controlling everyone around her. She never liked Naomi and made no effort to hide it. "She's smart, yes," Vivian had once said at a family dinner, "but she doesn't come from a real family." Those words stung, but Naomi told herself it didn't matter, because Ethan loved her. After joining his mother's company, Ethan began to change. He became cold, distant, and often obsessed over money. He started asking more questions about Naomi's company, her finances, her board decisions. Naomi wanted to believe it was harmless curiosity, but deep down something felt wrong. Naomi's best friend, Lydia, noticed it too. Lydia was also Naomi's lawyer and had stood by her side since her earliest startup days. She often warned Naomi, "Ethan has a financial obsession, Naomi. Be careful. You've worked too hard to let anyone take advantage of you." Naomi brushed it off because she wanted to believe Ethan loved her, not her money. Her company's board of directors also expressed concern. They trusted Naomi and admired her vision, but they had started noticing Ethan showing up to meetings uninvited, asking questions he shouldn't ask, and pressuring Naomi about shares and voting power. One board member told her privately, "You need to keep him out of the company." "Naomi, this isn't safe." Naomi tried to ignore it all because she loved Ethan and didn't want to believe her marriage was falling apart. She told herself he was just stressed and that things would get better, but deep down she felt lonely. Her marriage, which once gave her comfort and joy, now felt hollow and cold. She would come home to a man who barely looked up from his phone, who rarely said "I love you" anymore, and who always had new business ideas that involved her money. Still, Naomi kept going. She was strong and quiet, choosing to focus on her work instead of her pain. She was a billionaire CEO who could sit in boardrooms and make deals that shaped industries. Yet, she went home to silence and distance. Her life looked perfect from the outside. A beautiful house, a powerful company, a handsome husband. But inside, Naomi was exhausted. She kept ignoring all the red flags because she wanted to believe in love, the same love she had fought for when she married Ethan. She didn't know yet that everything was about to break. "Would you still love me if I lost everything?" Naomi asked quietly one evening. Ethan looked up from his phone, a small pause before he smiled. But it wasn't the warm smile she used to know. It felt forced. "Why would you even ask that?" he said, laughing lightly. "You worry too much." He kissed her forehead quickly and changed the topic to something about a new deal he was working on. Naomi stared at him, her heart sinking. He never actually answered the question. That night, when Ethan fell asleep, Naomi sat in her home office and opened her laptop. Something inside her needed to know the truth. She logged into their joint accounts. What she saw made her chest tighten. Money had been moved quietly, slow transfers to accounts she didn't recognize. Ethan had already started planning for life without her, and for life with her money. Her hands shook on the keyboard. This was real. The late-night phone calls, Vivian's cold words, Ethan's distant behavior. It was all connected. He was preparing to take everything. Naomi closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She could break down later, but not now. She clicked open the folder containing her print. Years ago, she had agreed to one to show Ethan she trusted him, but she had insisted on one clause. Her inherited and personal business assets could never be touched in a divorce unless she allowed joint control. Ethan had ignored that clause for years, thinking it didn't matter, but now it mattered more than ever. She made a decision. She would move her entire $1 billion fortune into a trust under her sole control. She wouldn't give Ethan or Vivian a chance to touch it. The house was silent, except for the soft click of keys. As Naomi worked, she moved her company shares, her liquid funds, even her private properties, all into the trust. Every password, every confirmation, every legal form, done with precision. She had built companies under pressure before. Now she was saving her life sec under pressure. It was past 2 a.m. in the morning when she finished. She sat back, exhausted, but steady. If Ethan found out before she was ready, there would be chaos, but she had no choice. Naomi opened a new email and typed to Lydia, her best friend and lawyer, subject, urgent. Message, initiate separation protocols. Quietly, she hit send, then closed her laptop. She looked over at Ethan sleeping in their bed, peaceful and unaware. A tear rolled down her cheek, but she wiped it quickly. She whispered to herself, This is the only way. In one night, Naomi's life had changed. She was no longer waiting for betrayal to crush her. She had taken the first step to protect herself, and there was no turning back. Show betrayal and Naomi's emotional turmoil as relationships crumble. When Ethan found out the money was moved, he exploded. He slammed the door so hard, it shook the walls, and stormed into Naomi's office. "What did you do?" he yelled, his face red with anger. "Where is the money?" Naomi kept her voice calm, even though her heart raced. "I moved it. It's mine, Ethan. I built it before I even met you." His eyes darkened. "You had no right. We're married. That money is ours." "No," she said softly but firmly. "It's mine, and you know it." He glared at her, stepping closer. "You'll regret crossing me, Naomi. You have no idea who you're dealing with." His words cut like a knife. This was her husband, the man who once held her when she cried, now standing inches from her face, shouting like an enemy. Hours later, Vivian called, her voice sharp and cruel through the speaker. "How dare you embarrass my son like this? People are already talking. Do you even know what you've done to our family's reputation?" Naomi didn't reply. She simply hung up, her hands shaking. The next day, an article appeared online hinting at internal issues at Naomi's company. It was vague, but damaging. Comments started spreading on social media, questioning her leadership. That same afternoon, Naomi received an anonymous text, "Step down before you're destroyed." She showed it to Lydia, who frowned. "This is getting ugly. And I just confirmed something. Ethan hired a private investigator to dig into your life. He's trying to find anything to use against you in court or the media. We need to be careful." Naomi felt her chest tighten. The man she once trusted with her deepest secrets was now paying strangers to dig through her life, looking for dirt. She sat down, covering her face with her hands. She still loved Ethan somewhere deep inside, or maybe she loved the memory of who he used to be. But now, looking at the way he had turned on her, she realized he had never loved her the way she loved him. He loved the power, the money, the access. Later that evening, Ethan came home angry again. He paced the living room, shouting about how she had ruined everything. "Do you even hear yourself?" Naomi asked quietly. "Is this about us, Ethan, or is it just about control?" He stopped and stared at her, his face hard. "You think you're smarter than me because you built that company? You think you can just cut me out?" "I didn't cut you out," she said, trying to keep her voice from breaking. "You cut yourself out the moment you planned to betray me." Ethan stepped closer, his jaw tight. "You'll regret crossing me," he said again, his voice loud enough to echo. For a moment, Naomi thought he might actually hit her. She stood her ground even though her body trembled. "Leave, Ethan," she whispered. He left, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell from the wall. Naomi sank onto the couch, shaking all over. Tears came, not just from fear, but from heartbreak. She remembered the man she first fell in love with, the one who cooked her breakfast on Sundays, who danced with her in the kitchen, who told her she was his safe place. That man was gone, replaced by someone who saw her as nothing but a stepping stone to power. Naomi spent the night sitting alone in the dark, memories flooding her mind. She remembered their wedding day, how he looked at her like she was his whole world. Now he looked at her like she was the enemy. The next morning, Lydia came over. "You okay?" she asked gently. "No," Naomi admitted. "But I will be. I have to be." Lydia placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "He's trying to break you emotionally, so you'll make mistakes. Don't give him that power." Naomi nodded. Wiping her tears, she felt broken inside, but she knew she had to keep moving. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival, emotional and professional. She couldn't let Ethan and Vivian win, no matter how much it hurt to see the man she once loved turn into her greatest enemy. That night, Naomi stood in her office, looking at the picture of her and Ethan on their honeymoon. She picked it up, stared at it for a long moment, then set it face down. She whispered to herself, "The man I loved doesn't exist anymore." Even as her heart ached, she straightened her shoulders. They could threaten her. Hire investigators, and try to ruin her name, but she wouldn't break. Not now. Not ever. Naomi called for a private family meeting at the lake house, telling Ethan and Vivian it was time to make peace. Her voice on the phone was calm and soft, almost tired. "We need to stop fighting," she said. "Let's talk face to face." Ethan and Vivian arrived, looking smug and confident. Vivian wore pearls and a sharp smile like she had already won. Ethan walked in with his usual charming grin, one Naomi used to love, but now only felt fake. "So," Vivian said, taking a seat, "you're finally ready to be reasonable. Ready to hand over control." Naomi sat across from them, her face calm and unreadable. She slid a small folder across the table. "Before we talk about control, I want you both to see something." Ethan frowned and opened the folder. Inside were legal documents and a flash drive. Naomi leaned back and said quietly, "That flash drive has a recording of the night you planned to betray me. You know the one, Vivian." Your voice is very clear. Vivian's face went pale. Ethan's hands froze on the paper. Naomi continued, "Those papers in front of you officially disinherit you. Ethan, as of this morning, you have no claim to my assets, no power over my company, and no say in anything I own. You don't even have joint access to the house anymore. Everything is mine." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Vivian stood up, shaking. "You don't understand, Naomi. This wasn't just about you. Our family is drowning in debt. Your father-in-law left us with nothing but bills and shame. We needed your company to survive." Naomi blinked. She hadn't known that. "So, you betrayed me because of his mistakes?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "You could have asked for help. Instead, you planned to destroy me." Vivian's legs gave out, and she collapsed back into her chair, covering her face. Ethan, however, didn't look sad. He looked furious. "You can't do this," he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. "You can't just erase me from your life like I'm nothing." Naomi's eyes were cold now. "You already did that when you betrayed me. And there's one more thing." She slid another folder toward them. "While you were busy trying to take my company, I was quietly buying controlling shares of your family business. As of an hour ago, I own it completely." Ethan's jaw dropped. "What?" Vivian looked up, stunned. What did you do?" Naomi's voice was steady. "You tried to take everything from me, so I saved myself. And yes, I bought your company. It's now merged with one of my subsidiaries. It's over, Ethan, over for good." Ethan's mask finally dropped. The fake charm vanished, replaced by raw anger. He lunged toward Naomi, screaming, "You'll pay for this." Before he could reach her, 2 security guards stepped in, holding him back. "Let go of me," he shouted, but they didn't. Vivian sobbed quietly in the corner, whispering, "We've lost everything." Naomi stood, gathering her folders. She looked at Ethan one last time. "No, Ethan, I lost you a long time ago. Today I just accepted it." She walked out of the lake house with steady steps, but the moment she sat inside her car, the tears came. She gripped the steering wheel, her body shaking. She had protected her company, protected her future, and even turned their betrayal into her victory. But she had also lost the man she once loved. As she drove away, her face was wet with silent tears. Power gained, love completely lost. Show Naomi regaining power and emotional clarity. The divorce went through quickly. Naomi made sure every detail was handled carefully, with Lydia by her side, every step of the way. She walked out of court with full financial protection. Ethan got nothing from her company, nothing from her trust, and no control over her life. But it didn't end there. Lydia's legal team had uncovered something bigger: Ethan's secret transfers and shady financial moves. Those accounts he quietly opened were linked to illegal activity. Within weeks, Ethan faced a fraud investigation. Naomi didn't celebrate his downfall, but she felt a quiet relief. She hadn't ruined him. He had ruined himself. Vivian disappeared from the public eye. The proud, powerful woman who once looked down on Naomi now avoided social events and public meetings. Her family name, once respected, was now connected to debt and betrayal. Naomi heard through business canals that Vivian sold her estate and moved away to live quietly. For Naomi, life didn't go back to what it was. It became something new. She started therapy, something she had avoided for years, because she thought she had to be strong enough to handle everything alone. In therapy, she learned to let go of guilt and stop blaming herself for trusting the wrong people. She reconnected with her real friends, the ones who loved her before she had money or power. She laughed more, spent weekends hiking, cooking, and even painting again, something she hadn't done since her early startup days. Slowly, she felt alive again. Naomi also put her pain into something meaningful. She launched a new charitable foundation focused on helping women in tech, especially those from difficult backgrounds like hers. The foundation provided funding, mentorship, and safe workspaces for young women with big ideas, but no support. No woman should feel powerless just because she doesn't come from wealth, Naomi said during the foundation's first announcement. People praised her not just for surviving betrayal, but for turning it into something positive. Investors admired her focus. Young women looked up to her as an example of resilience and strength. One evening, Naomi stood on her apartment balcony, watching the city lights. For years, she had believed love was worth sacrificing her own happiness. She now understood something important. Love should never cost self-worth. She had lost a husband, but gained herself. Naomi smiled softly, breathing in the cool night air. She didn't feel broken anymore. She felt free. She was building her life on her own terms, and this time, no one could take it away. Naomi visited her childhood orphanage on a quiet morning. She hadn't been there in years, not since she was a scared little girl, wondering if anyone would ever want her. Now she stood outside the same brick building, holding an envelope with a letter and a donation slip. Inside the envelope was a promise, $50 million, given anonymously to help every child who would come after her. She didn't want her name on a plaque or a photo on the wall. She didn't need thanks. She just wanted to make sure no child there ever felt forgotten the way she once did. Inside, the orphanage hadn't changed much. The walls were still painted soft yellow, the smell of books and crayons still in the air. Naomi quietly handed the envelope to the head caretaker and said, "Only for the children." Then she walked to the window where sunlight spilled across the floor. Outside, kids were playing, laughing, running, holding hands the way she once wished she could. Naomi smiled softly, a warmth filling her chest. For the first time in years, she felt completely at peace. A thought came to her, quiet but strong, like her own heart speaking. Sometimes losing everything you thought you needed is how you find everything you really are. Naomi stepped out of the orphanage and into the bright morning light. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. She was stronger now, free, unshaken, and untouchable. Thanks for staying with us until the end. If this story moved you, leave a comment, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that stay with you long after the screen fades. See you in the next one.